Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'm going to be teaching you guys basic CSS. Now, if you don't know HTML, this video is not going to be helpful to you whatsoever. So I'll have the link to learn HTML in the video description. So let's go ahead and get started. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. It's used to style your web page. So if you want to make buttons, if you want to have a layout, things like that, you're going to need to use CSS to accomplish that majority of the time. Now, there's different ways of creating CSS. Now, I already went ahead and created some basic CSS just so I wouldn't have to type it out for you guys. But, so here's one method. So we have style type text slash CSS. We have body, background color, red, and style. So that's within the header itself, and I'll go over what that means in a second. You can also directly put it in an element. Now, this is convenient if you have a style sheet linked, and I'll go over that in a second, and you want to change something really quickly. A lot of older websites like to use this instead of putting it in the header. I don't know why, but they do. So if I were to do style, and then you would just put anything that's within here. So background red. So if I were to put it directly in here, that's the same thing as above. Right there. All right. Enough of that. Delete that. And then there's a style.css, which basically is an external style sheet. The advantage to this is that, let's say you have a multi-page website and you want to change something like, oh, I want to make the text a different color, but I don't want to have to go ahead and edit every single header of my website. I can just edit the style sheet and it goes ahead and changes the color on every single web page. So that's convenient. That's why they have that. All right, so going back to elements. So if you want to go ahead and select an element, how do you do that? So you just type its name, curly brackets, and then you have your code. So for example, I have body, curly bracket, background, colon, red, so the value, and then close bracket. And then you can keep making these. And notice that it's between style type equals text slash CSS open bracket. So you need to have all your code within here. So that's very important. So you have HTML head style. HTML head style. Very important. So it has to be within style tags or this won't work. It will not know what the heck this is. All right. So that's how you select an element. So you just put all your code in there. But what if you want to make a div? I'm going to be talking about divs next. So I'm going to be talking about divs and IDs and classes. Now, let's say you want to style and make a box. So I'm going to do div ID equals box1. Now, typically boxes are not boxes, sorry. Divs are only, IDs are only used once. But they can be used more than once, but typically they're only used once. And you can apply multiple classes in a single div, but I don't believe you can within an ID. Okay? So, going back up to the top, let's talk about how you would style that ID. And you can also you can apply an ID to anything. So, let's say you have a paragraph, you can do open bracket PID equals blah, blah, blah. But I'm going to edit this box1, open brackets. Okay, so there we go. And let's say I want to give it a background of white. I can do that. And I want to have the text, color equal is going to be, what color should I make it? I'm just going to make it blue. Font dash size. I mean, it's really easy to do all this. 32 pixels, I guess. Make the width 300 pixels. Height 300 pixels. And there you go. So, there you go. It just made the box have a width of 300, a height of 300, font size of 32 pixels. the text color is going to be blue and it's going to have a white background. So now, if I say hello world, and I go to my web browser, you can see it says hello world. Now, it actually does not show up correctly. Now, why is that? Simple. The reason behind that is because you actually put a dot, which means it's actually a class. So instead of class ID right here, I'm going to change it to class. And now it should work. So let's go ahead and change back. Let's go ahead and refresh. And there you go. You have a white box with text that says hello world. So woo, it says hello world. It's below, it's in a white box that is approximately 300 pixels by 300 pixels. Now let's say you want to center the text. How would you do that? Well, that's pretty simple as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so within the box, all I have to do is go text align, center, and there we go. It is now centered. Pretty simple. Alright, so that's how you center text. You make a width and height. So as you can see, I changed it to class because a dot means up here means you're applying it to a class named box1, and the pound sign means you're applying it to an ID. So there's a big distinction between the two. Now you can also type up here, you can have box1, and you can also select things within each other. So if within box1 you want to select A, you can do that. So for example, I'm actually going to do that right now. So box1 and then A, it's going to select the class box1, and within the box1 it's going to select links because I have A. So if I were to put color is equal to pink, and then within this I were to make this a link to nothing. I'm just going to link this to nothing because there's nothing really to link to right now. This is just an example. And then text decoration, none. Now that's important for links, and I'll go over that in a second. Alright, so now if we go ahead and go to our browser, you can see that it made the link pink. So yes, it made the pink link pink, but any other text, so let's go ahead and switch back here to our web page, editing our web page. Now, any other text I put in here, so just random gibberish, but let's give it a line break first, is not going to be affected. So let's go ahead and refresh, and as you can see, that is blue because over here you can see that I actually put it outside the link, and it's two different things. Now what about if I put a link outside that? So ahref is equal to that, blah 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 blah. Okay, now keep in mind it does say up here a color pink, so let's go ahead and change to this, refresh, and as you can see it made it blue, and it's outside of our div. Okay, so I know it's kind of complicated. So basically we have our class, make sure we change back. Okay, so we have our class of box1, and within that box I want to make all the links pink with no underlining, none of that. So I have text decoration set to none. Okay, so pretty simple. So that's so far I've gone over IDs, classes, and elements. And so now I'm going to be talking about links because links are very important. Styling links. So before I get into that though, I mean, there's always different properties, and I'll have a link to a website that has a bunch of list of properties. So like text align is a property and the value is center. So next I'm going to be talking about margins and padding. Now, so let's go ahead and talk about that first. So let's switch back here. And as you can see up top, we have this little gap up here. So we have this white box, but it's not touching the edge. Why is that? Well, by default, it added margin and padding. The web browser did. So I want to go ahead and remove that. So how do I do that? Okay, so let's go ahead and switch back here. And so at the top, I just want to put an asterisk in open box. I'm going to do margin equals 0, padding equals 0. Now I'm going to switch over here, refresh, and as you can see, it's touching now. Now, what the heck is margin and padding? Well, I'm glad you were thinking that too. Okay, so what margin and padding they're similar, but they're different. Padding is within an element itself, or selector itself, whatever. And margin is the distance from other things. So, for example, I want to bring that back, and let's say I want it to actually I want the box to have a 10 pixel margin from the top. So I can just go ahead and do margin 10 pixels. Now, what the heck is this going to do? Oh, you're going to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. And as you can see, it's now 10 pixels, but it added a 10 pixel margin to all sides. So it's now shifted. So it's not as close to other things. So if I were to go ahead, come over here, and I want to change the margin to 130 pixels, just to give you a dramatic, to show you. As you can see, it's really shifted, so it's 130 from the top, right, bottom, left. So there we go. Now let's say you only want it to be 130 pixels from the top. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so how would I do this? Well, there's multiple ways. You can do margin top, which what this allows you to do is just go ahead and directly only affect that side. But then you have to go ahead and you have to do that for every single thing, which can be a real pain in the butt. So really how this works is you do margin and then the order that you want it to be. So from the top, I want 130. I don't want any indenting from the right, specifically right now, pixels. I want 0 from the right, bottom 0, and from the left, I want 30 pixels, I guess. I don't really know. Okay, so what this is going to do is we have top, right, bottom, left. That's the order, so it's clockwise, if that makes any sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh, and as you can see, what it did was we have 130 here, and then we have our spacing on the left, but there's no weird spacing on the bottom or on the right. Okay, so that's margin. Padding is also very similar. So let's go over that next. So padding, and like I said, it's very important. So let's say, I don't know. Let's get rid of, first of all, our text align to show you exactly what the heck I'm talking about, okay? So if I refresh, as you can see, excuse me, sorry about that. All right, so as you can see, it is very close to the edge, right? We don't want it touching the edge, so we need to add some padding, and that's what padding is. Where else margins was just adding space between elements, basically, but we want to make it so that way text isn't touching the edge and our content isn't touching the edge, because what if we want it to be left aligned if we do that, it's going to be touching the edge. So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm going to be talking about padding. Yay. Okay. Same thing goes. It's clockwise, and you can also do padding top, blah, 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 blah. And you can also use negatives. I don't know why you would want to use negatives, but you can. Okay. So let's, same thing goes, but I'm just going to use padding left because I don't need any padding really from the top. Actually, yeah, I kind of do. Okay, so let's do 10 pixels from the top. From the right, 10 pixels. Actually, I kind of want 10 pixels all the way around. So I'm just going to put 10 pixels. And like we noticed earlier, it's just going to apply that everywhere. So if I refresh, as you can see, it made our box bigger. And now it's not so close to the edge. So let's say I want to make this less on the left or give it more. I can just go ahead and change that. But doing so, like I said, will affect all of them because you are only using one different type. So there we go. Now it's not so cramped, in other words. Alright, so that's padding. So we've gone over margins, widths, heights, font colors. You probably want to know how to do links. That would probably be important, creating links. So let's go back. Alright, so this is, like I said, it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So let's talk about links real quick and hovering and stuff like that. Okay? So, actually, there's really no need to go over links, but we can anyways. Okay, so we already have our link. So I'm going to do A, and I'm going to do just regular A first. And I want all the font sizes of links to be 36 pixels, 35 pixels. I want my links to be really big, okay? So now, if I go ahead, change over, the link is now really big. And I don't like underlining. I don't know about you, but I've never been a big fan of websites that have a bunch of underlining. So I'm going to get rid of all my text decoration like I did above and set that to none. Okay? Cool. And I'm going to make the font color white. Okay. Now if I refresh, that's not going to do anything to the font color because it's actually just color. I do that all the time. You're going to mess up on certain things. There we go. Now it changed. But what happens if I hover over it? Is it good? Yes. But let's say you visit this link. So I click on it. Nothing happens. But for visited links, for example, it can actually change your color property, which you don't want to happen. So in case this happens, there's A, which is just all links overall. There's A visited, which you can change. There's also a hover. So when you hover over a link, if you want it to change font size, so let's show this real quick, 50 pixels. And there we go. So visited, hovered, and you can also do active. So those are the main properties for links. So if I change back here, refresh, when I hover over it, it gets really big. So you can do that. So you can also do this to other tags as well. So let's say you wanted to make the box bigger when you hover over it. So you can go ahead and delete these right now. Do box 1, hover, and let's just make the width 500 pixels and a height of 500 pixels. Okay. Now let's go ahead and refresh. Now when I hover over it, it makes the box a lot bigger. So like I said, you can apply hover and active and all those other things to more than just links, but links are where it's mostly used. Okay, so that's pretty much it. There's more than that. There's also border border dash radius. There's all these different things, but I'm starting to get down to just teaching you different things. I'll have a link in the description that goes all over all the different properties you can apply. So that's it. Classes are used mainly to style multiple things, so you can use classes more than once. IDs you typically use only once, and you can apply multiple classes. So if I had a box 2 that made links pink or whatever, you can do that. You can apply multiple classes. So that's how you apply it to that. Going over style sheets real quick. So let's say I want to go ahead. I don't want to have to change this on every single web page because look, it's pretty long and I don't feel like copying and pasting it to a million different web pages. What can I do? Simple. Select all this code. Okay. Style. You can copy that, whatever. I'll just delete it later. Right click, copy. Go to our style sheet, paste it in there. Boom. Alright, so now I have it in there. So now in the header, but if I were to refresh here, you can see that there's nothing there. So I want to go ahead and link to that again. So how would I do that? Link rel equals style sheet. And so make sure you put this in the header. Type equals text/css href style.css, and boom. That's a lot more simple to just copy and paste that and have it auto change on its own. So now if I switch over here, refresh, as you can see, boom. So I can just go ahead and put this line anywhere I want that format to be applied to my website. So that's very helpful. So I've gone over a bunch of different things in this tutorial, and this video is really long, but it's pretty simple. You basically select different things. You can select multiple elements separated by commas to apply values to. You can change it when it hovers. You can change all these different things. You can change div IDs, div classes, other elements, all these different cool things. It's pretty simple. I'm just rambling now. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found it helpful learning some basic CSS, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.